Hey guys, today I'm going to be doing a full face of old drugstore makeup that still wows me. I went through my collection and I pulled out some really amazing products that I have not given enough love to on camera in a while. Even though some of these have been out there for years and years, I still think they are worth the hype. So I just really wanted to go back and revisit some things and not just talk about new all the time. I did a video like this back over the summer, but it wasn't like a full drugstore video. I had some high-end products in there as well, but I had intended this type of video to be a regular thing, like at least once a month, and I totally dropped the ball. So going forward now in 2025, I definitely want to make that happen and share the products that I am actually using behind the scenes and not just for filming. So let's get started with eyeshadow first, and then I'll do my base just in case there's any fallout. So when I think of drugstore eyeshadow palettes, my favorite have to be ColourPop. And in the last video I did like this, I used the Going Coconuts palette and I did a really warm tone look. So today I want to head to the cool tones. And one of my favorite cool tone palettes from ColourPop is the Troublemaker palette. This one, I forget when this came out. It was at least 2 years ago. It could have been 3. If I find out, I'll put it on the screen. But I've had this for quite a long time, and it is a beautiful, almost all cool tone palette. There's 1 or 2 pops of warm tones, but for the most part, it has those gorgeous, more dusty cool tones, and it is a little bit more of a smoky leaning palette too. So I tend to focus on lighter colors in my day-to-day life, but when I do want more of that smoky vibe, this palette is absolutely perfect. So I'm gonna start out with the shade Sus, which is this one right up here. It's a really light gray, so I'm just gonna start applying this right into my crease and blending up toward the brow bone. I really think this gray is perfect. It's not quite a mid-tone, it's a little bit lighter, but it's really just the perfect transition shade for my skin tone. And also this is the lightest shade in the palette, so I think I use this one probably the most. I think it's the most wearable. If you don't want to do a smoky look, you can just use this and one of the shimmer shades and kind of call it a day. And by the way, the brush I'm using is from BK Beauty and it's the A503. It's from the Angie Hot and Flashy collection. All right, next I'm gonna take this plummy shade called 0Fs, and this one is gonna go in my outer corner. And for this, I'm using the Rephr #1 Mini. I love this flat little brush. It's just easy to pack shadow right into the outer corner, and because it's a smaller size, it's great for hooded eyes. So I just kind of pack this right in the outer third, and then use the fluffy edge to kind of blend slightly up into the crease. Then I'll go back to that A503 brush that I used for my crease and just start to blend that with the crease color and just soften things up a little. This look is definitely starting to get a little bit deep and smoky, but I'm gonna probably lighten it up just a little with the shimmer shades. All right, so next I'm just gonna use a little bit of the NYX Glitter Glue. Talk about an oldie but a goodie product that I still use every single day. I use this for every eye look. So I'm just gonna be patting this on my lid. I'm not going up into the crease. So I'm just putting this where the shimmer shade is gonna go. And I really wanna use this duochrome shade, Real, right here. It's so pretty. And this is a little bit of a deeper shade, so this is gonna continue that deep and smoky look, but I'm gonna top it with the white topper. And that's gonna brighten things up a little, but I just wanted to have this duochrome underneath because it gives such a beautiful effect. It's kind of like a blue that shifts to pink or purple. It has a little bit of gray behind it as well. Super pretty, but I'm gonna go ahead and apply the shade Baddie right on top. I think this is a Super Shock shadow. It feels a little bit different. It's a little bit creamier. And even though I've had this palette for quite a while, at least 2 years, I would say, it doesn't feel dried out at all. So I'm just gonna go ahead and pop this right on top, and it's really not covering up that shadow because this shade is really sheer. It's like a topper. So it still lets that other color come through, but it just lightens things up. I also want to take just a little bit of this shade Wild right here, and I'm going to put that into the mix as well since I'm wearing pink. So I'm just going to pat this one kind of in the center of my lid and blend it a little back toward the outer corner. I just wanted to add that slight bit of rosiness to the look because of what I'm wearing. I feel like it just kind of ties things together a little bit better. All right, so eye look is done. Let's move on to liner. So I have the Moira Micro Tip Liquid Liner. This is such a good one. It has the tiniest little brush tip. So it's great if you have hooded eyes and you want to create a super thin line. line, which is what I usually like to do. I don't want to take up too much of that lid space. So usually I just start in the center of my lid, and as I go along my lash line, I start to go away from the lashes a little bit more and create a gap between them. So you can see the line is actually above my lash line now, and then I just draw a line from the bottom and connect it so it makes a little bit of a triangle, and then I just fill that in. And I find that this helps to just lift my eyes a little because they naturally curve down. If I follow the curve of my lashes with the liner, it's gonna give that downturned look. So I usually just like to drag the liner kind of more straight out this way and make it thicker at the outer corner. So it just kind of looks like my lash line goes straight rather than down. And looking at the two side by side, you can see the outer corner of my eye over here kind of goes up a little, and over here it tends to go down. But this liner is so amazing. It doesn't skip, it's really pigmented, and the tiny brush just makes it so easy to use. All right, so because I don't have any other old drugstore mascaras, I'm just going to use the e.l.f. Lash Extender. I think with mascara, it's hard to keep older products because they expire so quickly. So this is just the one that I happen to have in my collection. And truly, it's one of my favorite mascaras at the drugstore. Between this and the original L'Oreal Telescopic, I think those are my two favorites. I also like the Maybelline Sky High as well. I just find that one to be so difficult to remove. So I'd rather use this one because it's a tubing formula and it just comes off so much easier. But I really do love the length and the volume that I get out of this. It also doesn't get clumpy. I love the brush. It really helps to comb out your lashes well. So this is such a good one. And I want to say it's like $7 or $8 maybe. All right, eyes are done. Let's move on to foundation. So I have the Ulta Beauty Complexion Crush. I actually haven't talked about this in a while. I know there have been so many new foundations coming out, but I want to get back to using this. It's in the old packaging. So Ulta had gone through a rebrand. I want to say it was last year, but I still have some of this left in the old tube. And I have this in the shade Light Cool, which is slightly too dark for me, but I appreciate that it actually has a cool undertone, unlike a lot of foundations on the market. And I just love the texture of this. You can see it's like a pretty decent color match. I like to apply it with a sponge, but you can also obviously use a brush or your fingers. I find that it looks good no matter what way I apply it. I think it's just that perfect Goldilocks foundation for me. It has medium coverage, so it's not too heavy, it's not too light. It also has the most incredible skin-like finish. So it doesn't grab to dry patches or look too matte. And it's also not one of those dewy, sticky type of formulas like a skin tint. It's just one of those really good, solid, medium coverage foundations with no gimmicks. And it just looks fantastic on my dry 47-year-old skin. Like, it's just one of the more smoothing foundations that I've ever tried. And as I'm using this again for the first time in a couple of months, I'm like, why did I ever stop using it? I feel like none of the other foundations I've tried recently, with the exception of maybe the Dior Hydra Nude, which I really loved, but most of them just don't come close to this. This looks so beautiful, and I say this as someone who's not like the biggest fan of the Ulta house brand. It's very hit or miss. There's a couple of really fantastic standout products, like their eye primer is really good. I like their baked face products too, like the baked blush and bronzer are nice. I do like their eyeshadow crayons. I think they have a nice formula. There's a couple of like lip products that I think are pretty decent too. But most of the products, I feel like they're good, but they're not mind-blowing. But this foundation is near the top of my list as far as like favorite foundations of all time go. This is, I want to say like the third tube of it I've purchased, and I'll continue to repurchase it as long as they make it. It's really great. And like I said, even though this color is just like ever so slightly too deep for me, I just love that it has that cool undertone. So many foundations these days say that they're cool, but they end up looking peachy or they still look yellow, but this one truly does have more of that like cool to neutral leaning undertone. So I absolutely love this. I think it just gives the right amount of glow that looks like your natural skin, but it's not overly glowy. There's no shimmer in the formula. There's no alcohol, so it's not drying. It's just perfect. Highly, highly recommend this one. Then for concealer, I just want to use a little bit of the NYX Bear With Me. I've come to appreciate this one more as I get older. I think in the beginning, I know everybody raved about it. For some reason, I just felt like this was okay. And I think it was during that time when we were all using more heavy concealer and doing like the big triangle. And I just felt like this wasn't enough coverage for me. But truthfully, I don't really need that much coverage under my eyes. I usually like to put it kind of toward the outer corner and a little bit on the inner corner, and then blend the excess under my eyes, but I don't go too crazy with it. And I find that if I do, it just settles into wrinkles. But this formula is one of the smoothest concealers on the market, whether high-end, drugstore. It's so smoothing that I've actually taken this and just used it all over my face as foundation. There are times when I'll do my concealer first and put this on and be like, wow, this looks so good. I'm just gonna keep going. And I just start putting it everywhere. And it is more of a light coverage option. So if you're someone who needs a lot of concealing, then it may not be enough for you. But if you don't and you have drier, more mature skin, this is one of the concealers that I think looks the best. It's so smoothing and it doesn't look cakey and heavy under your eyes. So I think this is an amazing product that doesn't get enough love these days. I know it got so much hype in the beginning, but it's one that I've also repurchased a few times already. Next for blush, I think I'm gonna pull out the Maybelline Fit Me blush in the shade Plum. So this doesn't look like much. I mean, the packaging is honestly terrible. Maybelline, if you're listening, please update this because it just, I don't know, it doesn't look very good. It's got this tiny little window. You can hardly see the color, but these blushes are actually really beautiful. They have a nice silky texture. They're finely milled, and this plum color in particular is gorgeous. It's one of my go-to blushes when I want that cool toned look. And because it has this purple undertone, it actually looks pink on my cool tone skin. It doesn't turn peachy, which a lot of pink blushes tend to do. So if you have that same struggle of a lot of blushes turning warm on you, definitely try something with a purple undertone, and this one is perfect. Like, it actually comes out pink. And again, I love the natural texture of these blushes. They have a little bit more of a satin finish, kind of like the foundations. So it looks very skin-like. It's not glittery or glowy, but it's also not like a flat matte. And also this type of really finely milled powder just makes your cheeks look so smooth. So this is not something that's gonna exaggerate your pores. If anything, it's probably gonna minimize them a bit. So this color is so pretty. And also if you're someone who has more of a fair to light skin tone, you can't overdo it with this. Like, I know the NYX Buttermelt blushes have a lot of beautiful cool tones, but they're super pigmented and you have to be really careful with them. This one, you can just keep on layering it to get the desired color that you want. It's really hard to go overboard with this because it's not an overly pigmented formula. So I just built this up in a couple of layers and I feel like the color is so pretty. So, all right, let's move on to lips. Lately, I've really been loving lip liners as lipstick. And I think the reason for that is because when it comes to regular lipstick, I find that I always go outside of my lip lines and it never really looks clean. But when I use a lip liner, it's so much easier to just get that really crisp outline, and my lips just end up looking neater overall. So even if I am going to use a lipstick, I'll still use a liner just to outline first. And for today's liner, I'm going to use the NYX lip pencil, and this is in the shade Pale Pink. These pencils are so good, and they're only like $5, so they're very inexpensive. But I find that they have that perfect balance of creaminess, but also more stiffness at the same time, because when you have a lip liner that's too creamy, it's not really going to stay in place. So again, this is the Pale Pink shade. It is very light, but it's also really cool toned. And for me, it's really that Your Lips But Better kind of color, because I don't have a lot of pigment in my lips. If you do, this might look a little bit too light for you, but if you have paler lips like I do, this color is the perfect cool tone pink. And really, it doesn't look like it's adding that much color to my lips because it's so close, but that's another reason why this is great if you want to overline your lips and make them look a little bit fuller. It's not going to look unnatural because it's literally the same color. And then to add a little hydration, I'm going to top it with the Wet n Wild Gloss and Glow tinted lip oil, and this is in the shade Gloss Up Girl. So it's a cool tone pink and it doesn't add a lot of color, but when you're using a lip liner as a lipstick, it's going to be very drying. So I usually like to top it with something that's really hydrating and that gives my lips a little bit of shine. So this is actually a really nice lip oil formula. It has some weight to it, so it's not one of those thin lip oils that just disappears into nothing, but also it's not sticky. So it gives that kind of lip gloss feel, but without the stickiness. And it's also really hydrating. So anyway, here's the finished look. I love all of these cool tones so much. I think these are awesome colors to use like for a Valentine's Day vibe. I've got kind of the slightly smoky, more date night eye with the lighter cool tone pinks. So what do you guys think of all the products that I used today? Are any of these your favorites? And if so, let us know down in the comments. And I want to thank you all so much for taking time out of your day to spend it here with me. I truly appreciate it. If you have some extra time and you'd like to watch the video that I did like this back in July with some higher end products and a warm tone look, I'll put that one right up there so you could check that one out next. And I definitely will be planning on doing more of these in the future. So anyway, guys, thank you so much. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you all in my next one. Take care, guys. Bye.